discipline. A word that sounds cold, rigid, unforgiving. But to the Stoics, it was sacred, because they understood something that most people still resist. True freedom doesn't come from doing what you want. It comes from mastering what you must. You see, comfort weakens the mind. Indulgence clouds judgment. But discipline, done right, clears the fog and reveals who you really are. The Stoics didn't chase luxury. They trained themselves for strength through simplicity, structure, and self-control. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but rose before dawn to write about stillness. Epictetus was born a slave, but taught others how to master their mind. They all lived one truth: the more you control your impulses, the less the world can control you. In this episode, I'll share 5 timeless Stoic habits that turn discipline into power and power into peace. Let's begin. Wake up with purpose, not emotion. The Stoics didn't stumble into the day. They stepped into it, on purpose. Marcus Aurelius began every morning with a reminder: you are not made for sleep, but for action. Why? Because how you start shapes how you respond. If you wake up reacting, checking your phone, complaining about the day, you've already lost control. But if you wake up intentionally, with stillness, with clarity, with purpose, you become the author of your day, not the victim of it. The Stoics practiced morning reflection. They asked themselves, what is my role today? What challenges might arise? What virtues will I need? This isn't romantic, it's practical mental armor. Because when you mentally rehearse the storm, you don't panic when it hits. Wake early, sit in silence, write, reflect, prepare. Discipline begins before the world wakes, and that calm is a form of freedom. Delay pleasure to strengthen. Will modern life says, if it feels good, do it. If you want it, take it. But the Stoics said, if it tempts your impulse, pause. Not because pleasure is wrong, but because instant pleasure weakens long-term clarity. Seneca practiced fasting. Epictetus slept on hard ground, not to punish themselves, but to train this habit. I choose, not crave. Every time you delay gratification, you reclaim control. You remind your body, you are not the master here. It starts small. Skip the second coffee. Wait 10 minutes before checking your phone. Say no when it's easy to say yes. Discipline isn't about denying life. It's about not letting life pull you by the collar. Because if you can't say no to a cookie, how will you say no to comfort in a crisis? Self-restraint is power, and the one who governs himself needs no one else to govern him. Do the hard thing. First, most people spend their day avoiding difficulty. They check emails before deep work, scroll before stretching, react before reflecting. But the Stoics knew. The hard thing is usually the right thing, and it's better to suffer now, by choice, than suffer later, from regret. That's why Marcus Aurelius said, don't delay. What the mind can bear, it must bear now. Pick the hardest task and start with it. Not because you want to, but because you're training yourself to lead, not follow. When you start with resistance, the rest of the day feels lighter. And more importantly, you feel stronger. This habit is not about hustle. It's about sharpening your mind for life. Because if you can face the mountain first thing in the morning, everything else becomes a hill. And that feeling of control, that's freedom. Reflect daily without excuse. Discipline isn't just about action, it's about reflection. Because without review, you repeat. Without honesty, you stagnate. That's why the Stoics journaled, not to impress, but to assess. Each evening, Seneca asked himself, what did I do well? Where did I fall short? What will I do differently tomorrow? This wasn't guilt, it was growth. Reflection turns failure into feedback. It turns emotion into data. It replaces shame with structure. So each night, before the world quiets, turn inward. Ask, was I in control today, or did emotion lead? Did I speak with virtue, or react from ego? Did I live with intention, or just survive? The more you reflect, the less you drift. And when you stop drifting, you start driving. That's what daily reflection does. It puts your hands back on the wheel. Choose routine. Overmood feelings are fickle. They shift with sleep, weather, news, hormones. But routines are anchors. Routines are decisions made in peace. So you don't have to decide in chaos. The Stoics didn't ask, do I feel like it today? They asked, is this aligned with who I want to be? That's why Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. Discipline doesn't require motivation. It requires clarity, then commitment. Build routines that serve your values. Morning solitude, physical movement, time for reading, time away from noise, then follow them, especially on the days you don't want to, because that's where real strength is built. Not when it's easy, when it's hardest. And every time you show up for the routine, you cast a vote for your future self. That is discipline. That is freedom. Most people think freedom is doing whatever they want, but the Stoics knew. Freedom is doing what's right, even when you don't want to. Discipline isn't punishment. It's power. The power to choose, focus over impulse, virtue over reaction, purpose over comfort. And when you master that, you don't need the world to bend to your will. You just need to keep your will strong. Remember this, wake with intention, delay what tempts you. Do the hard thing first. Reflect every day. Stick to the routine, especially when it's hard. Discipline isn't glamorous, it's quiet, but its reward is the loudest kind of peace, inner control. If this message reminded you of the strength you already have, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom each week. We don't chase motivation. We build resilience. Because freedom isn't found, it's earned, one disciplined choice at a time.